This is the Week in Review for TheTrumpet.com, Friday, August 13th, 2010. Last Wednesday, President Barack Obama said that he was leaving a pathway open to negotiate with Iran. The president told journalists at the White House that the United States would accept a deal where Tehran could build a civilian nuclear program, but would provide assurances that it was not building nuclear weapons. He also proposed negotiations with Iran about Afghanistan, saying that fighting the Taliban was a mutual interest shared by the United States and Iran, and that Iran could be a constructive partner in stabilizing Afghanistan. Ironically, President Obama's statements come the day after the State Department released its annual report on global terrorism. The report said that Iran remained the most active state sponsor of terrorism, including the Taliban. Extensive collusion between Iran, the Taliban, and al-Qaeda was corroborated last month by an internet leak of thousands of classified U.S. military documents. The president, however, rejects the evidence exposing Iran. He prefers instead to negotiate with the world's premier underwriter of terrorism. On Monday, the Iranian government called for the formation of an Islamic Union that would pave the way for a new world economic order. Iran's Fars news agency reported that First Vice President Mohammad Reza Rahimi said the goal was to unite the Muslim world. He also emphasized Iran's close ties to Iraq, saying that Iran was prepared to transfer technology and investments to its western neighbor and seeking further cooperation between the two countries. The announcement was a vivid reminder of Iran's goal to rule the Middle East and the Islamic world. Pakistan's recent floods have caused catastrophic loss of life, homes, and infrastructure. They are also helping the Taliban make a comeback. The Pakistani government had made progress against the Taliban in the Swat Valley. However, floodwaters have destroyed every bridge in the valley, and it will take months just to get electricity again. The Taliban has taken advantage of the opportunity, and Islamist groups have coordinated donations from urban middle-class Pakistanis to give to the flood victims. For the Pakistani government to attack groups that are seen as helping would be suicidal. Meanwhile, the government is rapidly losing popularity. Any shift in power away from the Islamabad government and toward the Taliban is a troubling development in this unstable, nuclear-armed country. The European Union is considering the exercise of a new power: the direct taxation of EU citizens. On Monday, EU Budget Commissioner Janusz Lewandowski said he would unveil the proposed tax in September. He said the EU's revenue structure does not reflect the spirit of EU treaties and that it was not the intention of Europe's founding fathers. Although most of Europe's prominent countries rejected the idea, the laws of the Lisbon Treaty appear to provide for it. Direct taxation is another important step the European superstate will take in the near future. Watch for European powers to engineer a crisis to provide rationale for federal taxing powers. This will be a crucial building block in the coming United States of Europe. Russia announced Wednesday that it has deployed an S-300 advanced missile defense system in Georgia. The Russian military is setting up the anti-aircraft missiles in Abkhazia and South Ossetia, two Georgian breakaway enclaves supported by Moscow. Russia is bolstering its presence in the disputed area, which was at the heart of the brief Russia-Georgia War in 2008. Then, the Red Army conquered Georgian forces in 5 days, and Moscow became the only major government to recognize Abkhazia and South Ossetia as independent. Georgia called deployment of the missiles an extremely dangerous, provocative step and appealed to the international community to back Russia off. Stratfor notes that the missile system is just one component of a multi-pronged Russian effort to lock in its military control over the Caucasus. When Russia invaded Georgia, Trumpet editor-in-chief Gerald Flurry wrote, "Russia's attack on Georgia marks the beginning of a dangerous new era in history." The Philippines says the United States should stay out of South China Sea disputes. Foreign Secretary Alberto Romulo said on Monday that Washington should not interfere with arguments between China and Southeast Asian nations over territories in the area. China has recently stepped up its claim on the entire 1.3 million square miles of the sea, a claim which the U.S. has rejected. Several Southeast Asian nations, such as Vietnam, welcomed America's support in resisting Chinese pressure, but the Philippines rejected it. This traditionally pro-American island nation is attempting to hedge its historic alliance with the United States and find a balance appeasing its gigantic up-and-coming Asian neighbor. The episode highlights the shift in influence within the Asian sphere from America to China and portends a prophesied grand alliance of Asian nations. The Royal Air Force may shrink to World War I levels, the Telegraph reported last Friday. Unprecedented cuts are being proposed at the Ministry of Defense and include scrapping large parts of the armed forces. It is the most sweeping set of changes to Britain's defenses since post-Suez Review in 1957. The military, already drastically downsized, will lose up to 16,000 personnel, hundreds of tanks, scores of fighter jets, and half a dozen ships. The Royal Air Force will remain with fewer than 200 fighters for the first time since 1914. Meanwhile, the Army will cut 40% of its armored vehicles and lose an entire brigade of 5,000 troops. The Navy will lose 2 submarines, 3 amphibious ships, 2,000 sailors and Marines, and 100 senior officers. The cuts are meant to help close a £72 billion black hole in defense finances, made by orders the military has made but cannot pay for. The hole is double the size previously thought. If implemented, these cuts will further drop Britain from its status as a major military power and make it a medium-scale player. The Federal Aviation Administration is vulnerable to cyber attack, the Associated Press reported Thursday. According to the Department of Transportation Inspector General, the FAA's measures to upgrade its computer systems have been only partially successful. While some air traffic control facilities have been retrofitted with better networks, the majority have not, and some systems have been breached in the past. The Trumpet has often warned of America's strategically vulnerable over-reliance on technology as its Achilles heel. A USA Today report finds that federal employees in the United States earn double what their private sector counterparts make. In addition to job losses, the economy has caused workers' pay to stagnate. Meanwhile, federal employees have been awarded larger pay and benefit increases. The gap between the public and private sectors has doubled in the past decade. Though public employee unions say the gap is a result of higher levels of skill required for most federal jobs, a direct comparison of comparable positions reveals substantially higher compensation for government workers. Critics say this is another sign of the federal government's out-of-control spending. And that is this week's Trumpet.com Week in Review.